In the old days, 30 years ago, you would meet someone like you, and that would be a 2-3 hour interview before television. Now you come in with your cassette. They say, how do you do? Berlin. The cassette goes in, you talk for 10 minutes, the cassette comes out, you take it back to your station. Nice to meet you, Berlin. Next person comes in, how do you do? Madrid. Madrid goes in, 10 minutes, out. Portugal, nice to meet you. Switzerland, nice to meet. And you do, you know, and it's not satisfying for the interviewer. They just begin to establish some kind of a rapport, and the lady comes in and says, you know, that's it. It's a bit like a horror house, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
or being at the dentist. I don't know.
But both of us are hookers in a sense. I mean, you satisfy the client. 10 minutes, he has the orgasm. They bring in the next one. But the interviews themselves are interesting, and one of the things that's interesting is that if you get the same question, sometimes a new answer pops in. You'll give the same answer, maybe 3 times, and then suddenly the 4th time, your brain, a new answer comes into your head, and it's an insight for yourself. Like the other day, I've always heard sometimes there's certain questions which are always the same. Why do you pick only challenging parts? Why do you only? And I said, and I always would say, because it's, I pick what's interesting. And suddenly it occurred to me that I don't ever pick a part because it's challenging, and I don't. I mean, it's crazy. Where is the challenge? But I said, if I were to do that, and that is an interesting idea, now I'm going to pick a part only because I want to be challenged. Therefore, what is the most challenging part I can find? The most challenging part I could find would be something that I had absolutely no interest in whatsoever. That would be a challenge. And in the worst script I ever read. That's a challenge.
To get back to you, that's a funny name, Dustin.
Yes, it is. I didn't like it when I was a kid because they called me Dust Mop, Dustbin, Dirty. I wanted to be called John or Bill. It comes from the family legend has it. I was unwanted because I was a mistake. I was not a planned baby. They had one child in the family, my older brother, who was 6.5 years older, and there wasn't much money, and I was an accident, which I don't understand because my father's a very meticulous man, and I even asked him, with such a meticulous personality, why didn't you use a prophylactic? And he said, don't ask me that, I don't know. Anyway, I was a mistake, and I was born in the hospital, and for some reason, they thought I was going to be a girl, and they didn't have any boys' names picked out. And days went by. My mother was in a room with, I think, 3 or 4 other women who had just had babies. And as I understand it, on the 5th or 6th day, a nurse came in and said, you're going to have to name your child. And it was 1937, I hate to admit. And in the next bed, there was a woman who had given birth to a child with a movie magazine, of all things, opened up, and it was an article about Dustin Farnham, who was a silent movie cowboy actor. He had a brother, William Farnham, and before there had been films, they were Shakespearean actors. So they said, Dustin. I don't know whether I think my mother, it would have been my mother who thought that was an interesting name. That's what I heard.
So that you were predestined to be an actor, probably.
Well, I could have been a cowboy. I do know that success has altered me. It's altered everyone around me. My family, my father, mother, brothers, aunts, uncles, everyone that I meet. I mean, suddenly the behavior of everyone changes, for better or worse. And God knows, and I've always felt that it brings everything to the surface. It brings my own worst aspects, and maybe some better ones, hopefully, to the surface. But it just does. It just alters. I know I'm different than I would have Certainly different than if I would have been a colossal failure and couldn't get work, couldn't get a job, still on unemployment checks. Yes, I would say it would be a different kind.
So you're going to get the Oscar for Best Actor?
What happens?
If I don't win, I will have it disputed. I'll make Gene Hackman pee in a bottle, and we'll find some steroids.
If you do win, what are you going to do? You're going to put it in the fireplace?
They're not going to check my urine if I win, I'll tell you that. I'm not peeing in any bottle. I'd love to see Best Picture. I mean, that's what I mean, that in a sense, it's an honor to win. But a large part of it is that people open up a newspaper and see Best Picture, no matter where they are, and that determines what movie they're going to see that night. And I think it would be a lie to say that when you make a movie, you would secretly wish that every human being that was born on the face of the planet, the day it's released, would go see your work.
How do you work with directors, or let directors work with you because you're such a big star? I mean, do you still let them direct you? Or what do you expect from a director?
Oh, well, sure. I mean, you need to be directed. I think the mythology about a big star is that you're there by yourself. It's all relative. The director's a big star. The writer, by that point, is one of the highest paid and better writers. The producer is, the other principal actors are stars. So it's all the same playing field. If you think you're McEnroe, you're playing Wallander. The director is Boris Becker or whatever. And I always think a bad director is like a bad date. They do the same thing that a bad date does. You know, you go out with a man, and he's already decided what the evening is. You're going to have some wine, right? Bring her some wine. Give her the meat. You'll love the meat. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And then there's some directors that are like that. Because the role of a director many times is that of a chauvinist. And the actor, whether he's male or female, is the kind of passive kind of woman that he says, don't say anything, and I'll make you look beautiful. I'll put the most beautiful clothing on you, whether you're man or woman. I'll give you the most beautiful lighting, and you will be wonderful in this. But please, don't try to suggest how you think the house should be run. And Levinson is different. Levinson, he's not saying I'm the director. He's just saying at the same time, he has a very strong vision of what he wants. And he's very intelligent. And, the main thing I look for is what I look for in people. Are we laughing at the same thing? Are we moved by the same thing? Is the same thing, do we have the same kind of irony about life? Are we talking the same language when we're not talking? Are we talking the same,
Having been in a lot of films, has it changed your relationship to being an actor a lot?
No, it's, and I've talked to actors. Gene Hackman is a friend. I mean, we used to room together. We went to acting school together. And I have other friends that I've known for 30 years. I mean, you study acting. That's all you do, you study acting. You still come out the first day of Rain Man and you're a fucking rank amateur. And you're looking at your work on the screen and you don't know anything. And you go to the director and you say, Barry, get somebody else. I can't do that. I've only researched this thing for a year. You can't know more. And Barry says, well, maybe you researched it too much. You keep trying to do what interests you, but there is a common thread that's going through it. You're trying to get closer and closer and deeper into that one thing, which is the self-portrait. Doesn't matter whether you're doing character or not. It's the self-portrait. Who is the self? The real self behind the self, behind that self. It's like the first time when you were a kid, you know, and you looked in the mirror the first time you ever looked in the mirror and you saw a reflection in another mirror? It was the first time you ever saw it, and you saw your face go, and you couldn't find the last. You started to count them. You said, my God, there's 50 of them. You see, you know, you saw 3 mirrors somehow reflecting you all the way. And somehow I think that's what the attempt is to get. You know, keep going through. And you know, and with it, you know you're never going to reach it. Or Arthur Miller, talking about something else, said it, you can apply it in the same way. He was talking about immortality. He says, we all want to be immortal. It's a natural desire. He says, but once having achieved it, let's say, even if you achieve it, even if you've written Death of a Salesman, it's going to be you know, he says, at best, it's like carving your name on a cake of ice on a hot July day.
1 minute.
1 minute?
1 minute.
60 seconds. Oh, you want me to, you got 1 minute left?
Yes.
Oh.
What's the question?
No, we should take another one. No?
One.
Oh, come on.
No.
One more. One more.
Long answer. It's very long answer.
Okay, then one more. It's my fault.
No, I can't
The hell with
remember
these,
the
Berlin. What? Come on, you can.
I can't.
Yes, you can. You can.